Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, wakes up inside of One Piece as Kaido's adopted son. He got adopted by Kaido because he awakens Conqueror's Haki at the start.
One Piece, Kaido's adopted son, starts with the Eight Gates formation. Chapter 51. One kick sends the red-haired man flying, the four emperors. None of them are easy to. In an instant, the heavens and earth fell silent. Everything has lost its color. A terrifying energy storm, indescribable in words, swept wildly in all directions from the point of impact between the two. The seawater was instantly evaporated. The sky was torn open with hideous gashes. The Moby Dick and Redford, like two leaves in a storm, were violently tossed and tilted by the impact of this energy storm. The pirates on the ship were swaying and terrified, clinging tightly to the ship's side to avoid being thrown off. "Withstand!" The white-bearded man roared, his fists clenched, and a terrifying shockwave erupted from his body as he tried to stabilize the Moby Dick. Kaido let out a dragon's roar, and his massive body was sent flying quite a distance. However, just half a second. Snap! Snap! A crisp, ear-piercing cracking sound came from the Black Divine's slash. To everyone's utter astonishment, Shanks's ultimate attack, God's evasion, which was powerful enough to rival the ocean, was actually shattered by that right leg solidified with blood-red energy. The right leg, solidified with crimson energy, remained as powerful as ever, still carrying earth-shattering force as it slammed down towards Shanks' main body. This kid, he's really something. Shanks has a sharp gaze. He never expected that his all-out, divine evasion wouldn't even last half a second. This brat's power has exceeded his imagination. In the blink of an eye, Shanks had no time to dodge. He could only hold the griffin horizontally in front of his chest, pouring all his domineering aura into the blade in an attempt to block this fatal blow. Clang! The right leg, solidified with crimson energy, slammed firmly into Griffin's blade. A terrifying power erupted instantly. Shanks felt an irresistible force coming from the blade, as if he had been struck by a meteorite. Despite his best efforts to resist, but his body still couldn't avoid flying backward like a kite with a broken string. Boom! Shanks' body slammed heavily into the distant sea. It stirred up towering waves, hundreds of meters high. The entire sea surface churned and roared violently due to this terrifying impact. Whether it was the Whitebeard pirates or the red-haired pirates, everyone seemed to be petrified, staring blankly at the churning sea, their faces filled with disbelief and deep-seated horror. Red-haired Shanks, one of the four emperors who reign over the New World. He was kicked away by that little brat in open-crotch pants. No wonder Ben Beckman had to concede defeat. With this kind of power, anyone who dares to refuse to admit defeat will likely be doomed. Oh, no. Kaido's enormous dragon head paused slightly at first, then burst into a louder, more arrogant, and more triumphant laugh than ever before. His laughter shook the sea. Red-haired boss can't possibly lose. That brat. He was just lucky. The crew members of the red-haired pirates were horrified, but they still refused to believe what they were seeing. Just then, crash! A figure suddenly shot into the sky from the surging sea. It's red-haired Shanks. He was soaking wet, his hair was disheveled, his face was pale, and there was still blood at the corner of his mouth. But his deep eyes remained bright, still filled with an indomitable fighting spirit. Cough, cough. Shanks coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of seawater mixed with blood. He glanced at Lin, who was suspended in midair, and whose aura had clearly weakened considerably. "Kid, you're really strong." Shank's voice was somewhat hoarse, but full of power. "If I hadn't blocked that kick with my knife in time, I'd probably be meeting Captain Roger by now." He paused, his eyes sharpening. "But your explosive moves must take a huge toll on your stamina, right? How much energy do you have left?" Upon hearing this, the eyes of the red-haired pirates all lit up. "That's right. Although that brat's move was devastating, it's impossible for it to be used without limit. He must be at his last gasp now." Kaido's laughter abruptly stopped, and a look of worry flashed in his dragon eyes. He could sense that Lin's aura was indeed much weaker than before. Lin's small brows furrowed slightly. This redhead is definitely something else. He took a direct hit from his own Night Grace attack, only coughing up a small amount of blood, and was still able to remain so composed. They even noticed his problem of excessive physical exertion. The Eight Gates formation Death Gate, combined with his extreme burst of power, has indeed taken an unprecedented toll on him. If he hadn't just received a 50% energy reduction bonus, he probably wouldn't even be able to use the flying technique right now. "Yeah," Lin responded in a childish voice, seemingly not denying it. Upon hearing this, Shank's smile widened. He took a deep breath, and his aura began to rise again. It's even more concise than before. Even more dangerous. The griffin in his hand emitted another hum, eager for battle. "Since that's the case," Shank's voice became deep and authoritative, "let's do it again." The words fell. He lifted Griffin high in the air. The blade's tip points straight to the sky. An indescribable, terrifying sword intent, seemingly capable of tearing the heavens and earth apart, suddenly erupted from his body. The sky is filled with swirling clouds and rising winds. The sea with its raging waves. Countless black lightning bolts swirled around him, crackling and popping. God falls. In an instant. Thousands upon thousands of terrifying sword energies, imbued with Conqueror's Haki and armament Haki, descended from the sky like a storm. Each sword strike is enough to easily cleave mountains in two. When they come together to form an impenetrable prison of swords, the destructive power they generate is enough to completely destroy this sea area. This is Shank's true peak strike. Both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates were stunned by what they saw, their scalps tingling and their bodies chilled to the bone. This is the true strength of the red-haired boss. That's terrifying. Who can withstand this attack? The crew of the red-haired pirates erupted in thunderous cheers. They seemed to have already seen the dawn of victory. Even the white-bearded man's pupils dilated in shock, his weathered old face filled with solemnity and astonishment. This red-haired brat. He actually has such terrifying strength hidden. Kaido's enormous dragon eyes were wide open, filled with disbelief. This redhead is even stronger than he imagined. Faced with this overwhelming, endless sword prison that seemed poised to devour the entire world, a frenzied fighting spirit resurfaced in Lin's dark eyes once again. His small body crouched slightly. The remaining crimson energy, once again, converged towards his right leg. Night. A childish, angry roar. Enveloped in crimson energy, Lin once again transformed into a crimson meteor, streaking across the sky. They faced that devastating sword prison. Boom! An even more terrifying, even more earth-shattering collision erupted once again. This time, his right leg, solidified with crimson energy, actually fought to a standstill with the endless sword prison. Sword energy and blood flames intertwined wildly, annihilating each other. The terrifying aftershocks of energy, like a world-ending tsunami, spread wildly in all directions. For the first time, a serious expression appeared on Lin's small face. This red-haired Shanks. It was even more troublesome than he had imagined. The four emperors are indeed no pushovers. Chapter 52 is Lin about to be defeated. Momousagi and Chatten appear. The energy storm gradually subsided. Red-haired Shanks was panting heavily, his hand holding Griffin trembling slightly. Several deep, bone-revealing bloodstains appeared on his body, injuries inflicted by the aftereffects of Lin's night grace. As for Lin, the crimson steam on his small body had noticeably dimmed, and the crimson energy that had originally covered his entire body had become thinner. Half. Lin was panting heavily, her rosy face flushed red with exhaustion. He could feel his internal energy rapidly draining away. The state of the 8 gates formation Death Gate can be temporarily maintained thanks to the system's cost reduction bonus. But that earth-shattering night grace had almost drained all his strength. Want to kick me again? It's impossible. Kid, you've reached your limit, haven't you? Shanks grinned, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes grew even sharper. You can't use that move again. He could see clearly that the brat was already exhausted. The members of both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates had now noticed something amiss. That kid seems to be really done for. No matter how powerful the special beam cannon is, it's useless if it can't hit the red-haired boss. Boss, take him down. The crew of the red-haired pirates erupted in a thunderous roar once again. Kaido's massive dragon head was also shaking restlessly, its eyes filled with worry. Lin didn't answer the redhead. She just rolled her dark eyes. The little index finger slowly lifted up again. At the fingertip, a tiny bit of purple energy began to gather with difficulty. It's still that heart-pounding fluctuation. But this time, the speed of condensation was noticeably slower. Still want to use that fingertip cannon move. Shanks' gaze sharpened upon seeing this. A fingertip cannon activated in this blood-red state. The power must be terrifying. Special. Light kill. Cannon. Lin's childish voice, though somewhat weak, was still filled with an aura of destruction. Call out. A purple spiral beam of light, more condensed and thicker than ever before, radiating a terrifying aura of destruction, suddenly shot out from Lin's fingertips. The beam of light was even wreathed in wisps of blood-red vapor from the gate of death. Its power was so great that everyone present felt a chill run down their spines. Even the white-bearded man's pupils shrank dramatically. If this attack had hit, even he would probably have been seriously injured. However, faced with this devastating blow, Shanks' figure, however, was like a ghost, leaving a faint afterimage in the same spot. His true form had already appeared in another location, dozens of meters away. The speed was so fast that it even surpassed that of before. Boom! The purple beam of light, powerful enough to pierce through everything, missed its target once again. It slammed into the distant sea, sending up a terrifying column of water hundreds of meters high. Hateful! Lin clenched her small fists in resentment. Red-haired Shanks is a user of the observation kill ability. Both his Conqueror's Haki and observation Haki have reached unprecedented peaks. It's almost impossible to hit him head-on. Useless brat. Shanks' voice was calm. Your finger cannon is powerful. Even I don't think I could completely block it. But no matter how strong the attack is, it's meaningless if it doesn't hit. Again. Call out. Another demonic light cannon, wreathed in crimson steam. Failed. Call out. Come again. Still no luck. Shanks easily dodged several powerful special beam cannon shots in succession. Each time, it was just a hair's breadth away. This feeling made Lin extremely frustrated. Having devastating power, but being unable to hit the enemy is even more frustrating than being defeated outright. Red-haired brat, all you do is hide. Kaido couldn't help but roar. Kaido, a fight isn't about who shouts the loudest. Shanks glanced at Kaido, then fixed his gaze on Lin again. Kid, you've run out of tricks. Next, it's my turn. Before the words were even finished, Shanks vanished from his spot in an instant. Next second, he appeared in front of Lin as if he had teleported. The griffin in his hand, wreathed in jet-black armament Haki and ferocious Conqueror's Haki, slashed fiercely toward Lin's head with a terrifying force that tore through the air. Too fast. Lin didn't have time to react at all. He could only watch helplessly as the deadly blade rapidly magnified in his pupils. Susanoo. At the critical moment. Eh, eh. The blood-red Susanoo reappeared. But this time, Susanoo's size is noticeably smaller than before. Clearly, Lin's stamina was no longer sufficient to support him in summoning the complete Death Gate Susanoo. Clang! Griffin slashed fiercely the arm of the blood-red Susanoo. The deafening clang of metal against metal once again resounded through the sky. Click! A crisp cracking sound rang out. A clear crack appeared on the arm of the blood-red Susanoo. And it was still widening. This eerie, blood-red skull's defense is clearly weaker than when it fought Beckman before. Really? Shanks' eyes narrowed, and he felt much more at ease. This kid has really reached his limit. Again. Shanks let out a low shout, and the griffin in his hand slashed wildly at the blood-red Susanoo like a storm. Clang! 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 The dense clang of metal against metal was deafening. Each strike left a new crack on the blood-red Susanoo. In just a few breaths, the blood-red Susanoo shattered and disintegrated on the spot. But Lin immediately summoned the crimson Susanoo again. However, compared to the previous one, the crimson Susanoo's light was much dimmer. In this regard, red-haired Shanks didn't stop. Keep the attack going. His goal was simple: to wear them down. Keep wearing Lin down until he's exhausted and gives up. Only in this way. Only by restoring every last bit of face for the red-haired pirates can they truly regain their dignity. Ida. Lin's face was as pale as paper, and her forehead was covered with large beads of sweat. He gritted his teeth and desperately tried to maintain Susanoo. But he could sense that he would be completely unable to hold on for at most 3 minutes. He was afraid he would lose this match. That brat is going to lose. Great. Red-haired boss is awesome. Kill him. Kill this little monster. The crew of the red-haired pirates erupted in deafening cheers. They seemed to have already seen the dawn of victory. Even Ben Beckman, with a slight smile on his lips and a cigar in his mouth, nodded gently. The outcome is decided. The Whitebeard pirates were also silent. Marco, Jaws, and the others looked at Lin, who was struggling to hold on with complicated expressions in their eyes. Although this brat had previously made them lose face. But it must be admitted that this kid's strength is indeed terrifying. If it weren't for exhaustion, the outcome of this battle might not have been so certain. He's a promising talent. It's just a pity that. Whitebeard glanced at the anxious Kaido, and an unprecedented look of jealousy appeared in his eyes. Navy. It's the Navy. A warship is coming. Someone gasped in surprise. Everyone present, including Shanks, who was engaged in fierce combat, and Lin, who was struggling to hold on, couldn't help but glance at it. All that could be seen was the distant horizon where the sea met the sky. A warship painted with naval markings is speeding towards us, cutting through the waves. Two figures stood on the deck of the warship. When they could clearly see the appearance of the two figures, the members of both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates raised their eyebrows slightly. Is it Momausagi and Chatten? He's not someone to be trifled with. How did they get here? The officers of the four emperors present were naturally familiar with these two admiral candidates from the Marine headquarters. But they didn't care. Two mere general candidates are not enough to make them wary. However, when Lin saw the warship and the Momausagi and Chatten on it, his dark eyes, which had become somewhat dull due to exhaustion, suddenly lit up. That's the look in a wolf's eyes when it sees its prey. Iya! Lin suddenly let out a shout that was not meaningful. Next second, to everyone's astonishment, his small figure transformed into a streak of blood-red light, hurtling toward the naval warship at an incredible speed. Chapter 53. One shot annihilates the T-Pig's new reward, Ultra Instinct. Hey, what is that brat going to do? Is he insane? They actually charged directly at the Navy. Both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates were completely baffled by Lin's sudden action. Even Kaido was momentarily stunned. What's going on? What does Lin want with the Navy? Shanks was also slightly taken aback, and even the griffin in his hand paused subconsciously for a moment. What's this kid up to? At the same time, on a naval warship, Momausagi, Jin, and Chatten Cake were holding binoculars, observing the distant battlefield with solemn expressions. They were ordered by Fleet Admiral Sengoku to conduct long-range reconnaissance of the movements of the Beast's pirates and the red-haired pirates. But unexpectedly, I witnessed such an earth-shattering battle here. What they found even more unbelievable was the guy who fought Shanks, one of the four emperors, to a standstill, is actually a little kid who looks only a year old. That brat. What kind of monster is he? Chatten put down his binoculars, his forehead covered in cold sweat, and his voice trembled slightly. He actually managed to fight Shanks to this extent. Momausagi's face was also filled with shock and confusion. However, it seems he's nearing his end. Momausagi keenly sensed Lin's current state. Physical exhaustion at the end of one's rope. It seems this battle will be over soon. Momausagi picked up the Den Mushi, preparing to report the situation to Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Just then, what? Suddenly, Chartun, who was standing nearby, let out a gasp. What's wrong? Momausagi asked immediately. Chartun pointed his finger forward, his expression showing some panic. That brat. Hey! He's flying straight at us. Chatankaji's voice changed due to extreme shock. His finger was fixed on the small figure that was rushing straight toward their lone naval warship at a speed too fast for the naked eye to see, like a blood-red comet. Momausagi, Jin's strikingly beautiful face, was now filled with disbelief. What the hell? This little monster who fought Shanks, one of the four emperors, to the point of causing the heavens and earth to shatter, why didn't he continue to fight Shanks to the death? Why did he suddenly turn his guns on the Marines? Everyone, prepare for battle. Chartun's expression turned fierce. He gripped the sword at his waist and roared, his voice trembling with fear. Momausagi's pretty face was also solemn. Her golden blade was already drawn, and she stared warily at the small figure floating in midair. Surprised as they may be, as reserve generals, they are not pushovers to be easily manipulated. In the sky, Lin was panting heavily, his face flushed red, and sweat had soaked the stray hairs on his forehead. It's fair to say that Lin is now at his wit's end. But his dark eyes still shone with an astonishing brightness, like the brightest star in the night. His gaze was fixed intently on the tea-pig below. "You are the one." Yeah." Lin let out a low growl that was difficult to decipher. He forced out the last bit of strength from his body, and with great difficulty, he raised his chubby little index finger once again. At the fingertips, that familiar, heart-pounding purple energy began to condense, rotate, and compress at a speed several times slower than before, yet still unwavering. He's planning to use that tactic against the Navy. Shanks, standing some distance away, tensed up. What exactly is he going to do? That's the move. Is this guy kidding? Does he intend to kill a candidate for general? This is a serious matter. The crew members of the red-haired pirates all changed their expressions drastically. Dad, that brat, what does he want to do? Even Shanks doesn't dare to greet him. Is he going to kill the Marines? The captains, including Marco, Jaws, and Vista, had disbelief in their eyes. The white-bearded man's weathered face was also solemn. He couldn't understand Lin's actions either. But a bad feeling told him that what was about to happen was going to be quite terrible. Tea-pig, watch out. Momousagi also sensed the terrifying energy contained in the purple beam of light. Her pretty face paled, and she hurriedly warned her. Why would Chatten need her reminder? As purple energy began to gather at Lin's fingertips, his hair stood on end, and an extreme sense of crisis instantly enveloped his entire body. You little brat. Don't underestimate me. T-Pig roared, unleashing its domineering aura without reservation. He gripped the knife with both hands and slashed forward fiercely. One sword style, Fugu River. A gigantic azure blade of light, imbued with intense armament Haki, slashed down at Lin like a roaring dragon. This strike was his trump card. Its power is enough to slice through a small island. This is the highest respect for the name of the 3 billion bounty, demon child Lin. He dared not hold back in the slightest. Special. Light. Kill. Cannon. Call out. A purple spiral beam of light, thicker and more refined than ever before, radiating a terrifying aura of destruction that sent shivers down one's spine, suddenly shot out from Lin's fingertips. The beam of light was even surrounded by wisps of blood-red vapor from the Death Gate. Its power is several times stronger than any before. Boom! The purple spiral beam of light collided violently with the enormous cyan blade of light in midair. There was no stalemate whatsoever. There was absolutely no suspense. Chatten's renowned swordsmanship, capable of splitting mountains and shattering rocks, was as fragile as paper in the face of Lin's special beam cannon, which was infused with the power of the Gate of Death. Just one glance. Snap! The cyan blade light shattered instantly, like glass thrown into a shredder, turning into countless specks of light that vanished into nothingness. The purple spiral beam of light remained as powerful as ever. Still carrying the aura of destruction, it fiercely bombarded Chatten below and the naval warship behind him. What? T-Pig's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He never dreamed that his proud, all-out attack would be unable to withstand even a single blow from his opponent. Armed, dazzling display. Momousagi appeared in a flash. Countless pink slashes, imbued with armament Haki, met the purple pillar of destruction like blooming cherry blossoms. However, all of this was in vain. Bang, 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 bang. Eh, eh. The pink slashes burst like bubbles the moment they came into contact with the purple beam. It was completely impossible to stop it in the slightest. There's no other way. Armament Haki hardening. Iron body. The two men decisively raised their swords, which were hardened black by armament Haki, and their entire bodies were completely black. These two candidate generals had adopted their strongest defensive stance. Boom! The terrifying purple beam of light finally struck them squarely. In an instant, the incredibly sturdy naval warship, faced with this destructive force, was instantly torn to pieces like a cookie being devoured by a giant beast. Wood chips fly everywhere. Steel twists and turns. The terrifying energy shockwave transformed into visible ripples, spreading wildly in all directions. The sea surface was forcefully pressed into a huge dent. The surrounding seawater was instantly evaporated, turning into steam that filled the sky. Gulp! The members of the red-haired pirates and the white-beard pirates, who were in the distance, all swallowed hard as they looked at the terrifying scene before them, which resembled the end of the world. His face was filled with boundless horror. Terrible. This demon child Lin is an absolute monster. With a single strike, a main naval warship, along with two admiral candidates, was completely destroyed. Lin, what exactly are you going to do? Kaido's enormous dragon head eyes were filled with confusion. Lin hovered in midair, her small body swaying slightly, her face deathly pale. He felt his eyelids getting heavier and heavier, and his consciousness began to blur. That single shot, the demonic light cannon infused with the power of the Gate of Death, almost completely drained the last bit of strength from his body. He can barely maintain flight now. The blood-red steam dissipated completely. The state of the 8 Gates formation Death Gate can no longer be maintained. That imposing, blood-red Susanoo has long since vanished. Ding! Congratulations, host, for successfully defeating a Shichibuka-level character, Marine Admiral Candidate Chatton. Mission 3. Defeat 4 characters of Shichibukai rank or higher for 4. Mission complete. Congratulations, host. You have received the mission reward. Ultimate Ninja Technique. Ultra Instinct, a supreme state of mastery that allows one to evade any attack. The body's various parts move reflexively based on their own judgment and senses, without the need for conscious control. Activation requires Conqueror's Haki. Chapter 54. Activating Ultra Instinct, easily dodging attacks from 4 Emperors. A series of cold system notifications rang in Lin's mind. Lin, who was on the verge of fainting, suddenly perked up when he heard the notification sound. Ultra Instinct. And it even consumes Conqueror's Haki. Lin was overjoyed. Although he is now exhausted, he still has a considerable amount of Conqueror's Haki left, thanks to the rewards he has earned from completing missions over this period of time. This is a godsend. Iya! Lin exclaimed excitedly, a childlike smile spreading across her small face. Without any hesitation. With a thought, Lin activated the Ultra Instinct, technique he had just acquired. Hum! An indescribable, wondrous fluctuation quietly spread out from Lin's small body. It lacked the destructive and violent aura that had accompanied the opening of the 8 gates before. It also lacked the suffocating sense of oppression that comes with rising crimson steam. At this moment, Lin looked, even somewhat calm. His face, which had turned bright red from exhaustion, gradually regained some color, but he still looked visibly tired. Fine beads of sweat were still on his forehead, and his breathing was still somewhat rapid. However, even in this seemingly weak state, an indescribable aura emanated from him. His once jet black hair had changed, color inch by inch. His head was covered in dazzling silver hair, like moonlight, with a faint silver halo flowing over his small head. Those dark eyes had become exceptionally clear, with a faint silvery white light shimmering deep within their pupils, as profound as the stars. He made no unnecessary movements, nor did he emit any bursts of air. But it gives people a feeling of ethereal, misty, and harmonious harmony. It was as if he had become one with the surrounding world, the howling sea breeze, and the surging waves. His small body was still suspended in midair, but it no longer felt like he was being supported by brute force. It's like a feather gently lifted by the wind, leaving no trace. What's going on? That brat. What happened to him? Hair changed color. The members of the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates, who were watching from a distance, stared wide-eyed, their faces filled with disbelief. They could clearly sense that Lin's aura had undergone some fundamental change. But they couldn't say exactly what the changes were. It just feels really weird. Extremely weird. Aurora. Kaido's massive dragon head tilted slightly, its eyes filled with confusion and a faint sense of anticipation. He could sense that Lin's strength hadn't recovered much. But this sudden, fresh aura is very unusual. That brat. Shanks frowned, his keen observation Haki clearly capturing every subtle change in Lin. Physical strength is still lacking. But that aura, that feeling that seemed to exist independently of heaven and earth, yet was in harmony with all things. This set off alarm bells in his mind. I've never seen such methods before. The white-bearded man's deep gaze was fixed on Lin, and for the first time, his weathered face showed such focused and inquisitive expression. This kid always manages to bring him surprises. Just as everyone was filled with doubt and uncertainty. Shanks the red-haired is moving. He couldn't wait any longer. This kid is too weird. The endless stream of strange abilities made him feel a chill down his spine. We must finish this quickly. This farce must end now. You brat. Whatever tricks you're up to this time. That's enough. Shanks unleashed his Conqueror's Haki once again, without reservation. He raised his famous sword, Griffin, high in the air. The blade's tip points straight to the sky. Black lightning bolts coiled around it, crackling and popping. God falls. Another godfall. More ferocious and violent than before. Thousands upon thousands of terrifying sword energies, imbued with ultimate conquerors, Haki and armament Haki, descended like a doomsday judgment from the heavens. It transformed into an impenetrable prison of swords, descending upon Lin, who seemed to be on his last legs. This attack was no less powerful than the one he had just exchanged blows with Lin, Knight Grace. Even more so because of Shank's determination to decide the outcome with a single blow. Even more ruthless. It's over. That brat's dead meat. In this state, how could he possibly withstand the captain's godfall? To the crew of the red-haired pirates, Lin was merely putting on a show of bravado at the last gasp. If this attack is launched, defeat is inevitable. Even Kaido's enormous dragon eyes were once again filled with anxiety and worry. He was about to rush forward to rescue them without hesitation. However, next second, faced with that overwhelming, terrifying sword prison, powerful enough to destroy the island, Lin floated in midair, seemingly about to fall. Moved. He did not unleash any earth-shattering power. He also failed to summon the ferocious Susanoo. He simply tilted his small body slightly to one side. Correct. It was just a casual gesture, a slight tilt to the side. It seemed as if she had simply adjusted her posture, unintentionally. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Eh, eh, eh. Those thousands upon thousands of terrifying sword energies, powerful enough to tear apart steel and cleave mountains, actually all narrowly missed him. Not a single one. Even the slightest wisp of sword energy. I was able to touch the hem of his clothes. His figure moved nimbly and agilely amidst the rain of swords. He was like a leaf falling in a stormy sea, rising and falling with the waves, yet never getting caught up in them. It's like a butterfly dancing in a storm, its wings fluttering slightly to precisely avoid every raindrop. That feeling, words cannot describe it, can only say, amazing, unbelievable. What? Shanks's usually composed and confident face was now filled with disbelief. His pupils contracted to their maximum size. His proudest achievement, the pinnacle sword technique that could rival the vast ocean, was godfall. They actually managed to dodge it in such a ridiculous way. How is this possible? Oh, no. Kaido's enormous dragon head froze in midair. His originally anxious eyes were now wide open, even bigger than copper bells. It was filled with bewilderment, astonishment, and a hint of ecstasy that even he himself didn't realize. Guarara, this. Whitebeard's massive body suddenly leaned forward. His hawk-like eyes were fixed on Lin's small figure, his gaze filled with unprecedented shock. This movement technique, this level of understanding, regardless of locks. He was once his rival, but Roger, the man who eventually became the Pirate King. He had none of those qualities. He roamed the seas for decades. Today, I actually opened the eyes of a little kid who is just over a year old. Chapter 55. A perfect dodge that shocked the entire audience, leaving the Naval High Command complete. Lind, I underestimated you. From now on, I'll take this even more seriously. Bring it on. Shanks grinned, a smile spreading across his previously surprised face, and excitement flashing in his eyes. He held Griffin down, and with lightning speed, appeared in front of Lin in an instant. The famous sword Griffin in his hand was no longer used for wide-ranging area attacks, but instead transformed into tricky probing attacks. Vast, quasi, ruthless. Each strike, imbued with the dark armament Haki and the explosive Conqueror's Haki, was aimed at Lin. But he chose to precisely avoid all vital points. The blade tore through the air, producing a deafening shriek. However, faced with this storm of slashes, Lin remained motionless. Or rather, his brain didn't issue any instructions. His body started moving on its own. His head tilted slightly. The blade grazed his cheek, the gust of wind ruffling the stray hairs on his forehead. He leaned back slightly. The horizontal slash missed his chest by a hair's breadth. The little foot lightly touches the ground. The whole person was like a weightless feather, drifting back half an inch, dodging the tricky upward slash. Hide. 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 He dodged every single attack, with incredible skill and precision. This. Am I seeing things? Boss's attacks. None of them hit. The crew members of the red-haired pirates were all dumbfounded, their jaws practically dropping to the deck. The scene before them had completely overturned their understanding. That's their captain, the four emperors who reigned supreme in the New World. At this moment, his attacks were like a tidal wave, yet they always missed by the slightest margin, making people marvel at Lin's unpredictability. The Whitebeard pirate's side was also eerily silent. Marco, Jaws, and the others all stared wide-eyed, their mouths agape, unable to utter a single word. Beckman, this. Raki Lu swallowed hard and looked at the first mate beside him. Ben Beckman, a cigar dangling from his lips, stared intently at Lin through his glasses. His brows furrowed deeper and deeper. Something is wrong. Something's really wrong. This brat. When he opened the 8 gates before, although his aura was violent and his power was unparalleled, he could clearly feel the huge consumption of his physical strength with each burst. Especially the last few kicks of Night Kai, and the special beam cannon that fused with the power of the Death Gate almost drained him dry. But now, Ben Beckman keenly noticed that Lin's breathing, though still somewhat rapid, was visibly becoming steady. His face, which had been flushed from exhaustion, had regained some color. The beads of sweat on my forehead seemed to have decreased. The most important thing is this kid's current, incredible dodging ability. Without expending any physical energy. A terrible thought rose in Ben Beckman's mind. Oh no. Beckman spoke, his voice hoarse. That brat's stamina. No, his aura. Not only isn't being depleted, but it's gradually recovering. What? Upon hearing this, Yasop and the others were all shocked and looked at Beckman in disbelief. How is this possible? That's right. Beckman's expression was extremely grave. With each breath he took, it became more even and longer than before. The weariness on his face is fading. This means he's not expending any energy at all in his current state. Our strategy of attrition warfare is no longer effective. In a word, this sent chills down the spines of all the red-haired pirates' officers, making them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Scalp tingling. Wow. On the distant sea, on a huge shipwreck. Momousagi, Jin was soaking wet and looked utterly disheveled, with obvious bloodstains at the corners of her mouth, indicating that she was seriously injured. She supported the unconscious Chatten Cake with one hand, while gripping the driftwood tightly with the other. I looked up. That strikingly beautiful face was now filled with boundless shock. What did she see? Shanks, one of the 4 emperors, the man who stands at the pinnacle of the world, is now attacking a little kid, wearing open-crotch pants with utmost seriousness. And that little brat. Surprisingly, he handled it with ease and composure. He easily dodged every single one of Shanks's attacks. Are you kidding me? This was even more unbelievable to her than the fact that she and Chatten were instantly killed in one move. Just then, prue, prue, prue. Prue, prue, prue. The den mushy in her arms suddenly rang. This is an emergency line, exclusively for the Navy headquarters. Jin took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down, and answered the den mushy. Crack. On the other end of the den mushy, the majestic yet anxious voice of the Sengoku Marshal immediately came through. Jen, is that you? Report the situation immediately. Your warships have lost signal. What happened? The warring States Marshal. The warship has been sunk. Furthermore, he is seriously injured and unconscious. There was an instant silence on the other end of the den mushy. A few seconds later, Sengoku's voice, brimming with suppressed rage, rang out again. These bastards. Who did this? Is it Kaido? Or Shanks? Or Whitebeard? No. Marshal. Jin bit her lip and managed to utter a few words. It wasn't them. The one who attacked us was Lin, the demon child from the Beast's pirates. Once again, there was a deathly silence on the other end of the den mushy. Naval Headquarters, Marshal's office. Sengoku, Garp, Tsuru, and the three admirals present, Akinu, Kizaru, and Aokiji, the entire highest echelon of the Navy, were all frozen in place, their faces showing the same disbelief. Kaido's bastard. Akinu Sakazuki's fists clenched so tightly they cracked, a wisp of hot smoke rising from between his fingers, his eyes so dark they could drip water. Oh dear. This brat, I guess I can't ignore him anymore. Aokiji Kyuzen straightened up from his chair. Lin, the demon child. Why did he attack the Navy? Sengoku was both incredulous and utterly perplexed. And you and Chatten, two lieutenant generals. And general candidates at that. His strength is indeed formidable, but how could he possibly have reached this level? It's true, Marshal. Jin's voice was filled with bitterness and shame. He only used one move. That move was extremely strange. It was clearly just a fingertip cannon, similar to Admiral Borsellino's, but its actual power was incredibly astonishing. Even the two of us combined couldn't stop them. Everyone's pupils dilated involuntarily. One move repelled two general candidates. It even caused a general candidate to faint on the spot, which is equivalent to an instant kill. What kind of unbelievable story is this? Oh, Tilda. Borsellino slowly extended a finger, its tip gleaming with light, and exaggeratedly drawled, similar to my laser. This is truly terrifying, Tilda. Where is Lin, the demon child, now? Lieutenant General Tsuru calmly asked. Are you still pursuing them? Jin glanced at the incredible battlefield in the distance and replied in a dry voice. No. He's fighting Shanks. Hiss, Tilda. Garp let out an exaggerated gasp. The others were equally astonished. Even Akinu, who usually only had a gloomy and angry expression, couldn't help but change his expression drastically at this moment. Fighting Shanks. Those are the four emperors. Moreover, he's a guy whose strength is widely recognized as unfathomable, comparable to Whitebeard. Lin the demon child is strong, that's for sure. But how could he possibly compare to Shanks? And red-haired Shanks. It seems like I can't even touch him. Jin's words are so startling, they could kill anyone. These words sent chills down the spines of the Naval High Command. Are you kidding me? Akinu couldn't help but question. Shanshan can't touch him. Jen, did you see that clearly? That's one of the four emperors, Shanks. General Sakazuki, it's true. Momosagi's tone was filled with a deep sense of helplessness. Red-haired Shanks' attacks, whether sword techniques or hand-to-hand combat, were all perfectly dodged by that brat. Not a single shot. Chapter 56, The Prodigy Became a Prodigy. Shanks admits defeat. Dead silence. The silence was so profound, you could hear a pin drop. Every word Jin uttered on the other end of the den mushy was like a heavy hammer, striking the hearts of the highest levels of the Navy. Not a single shot. The Warring States Marshal's voice was extremely strained, and every word conveyed a deep sense of disbelief. He glanced at Garp beside him instinctively. Garp's face, which always wore a sly smile, froze completely at this moment, his mouth slightly open, his expression extremely serious and grave. Jen, are you sure you're not seeing things? Lieutenant General Tsuru's wise eyes were now filled with turbulent waves. This is completely mind-blowing. Shanks, one of the four emperors. That's a monster who can go toe-to-toe with Roger and Whitebeard. His attack couldn't even touch a toddler who was just over a year old. Absolutely true. Jin's voice trembled slightly, yet remained exceptionally firm. Moreover, the appearance of the demon child Lin has changed quite a bit. He used to be covered in blood and gore, but now a silvery white halo surrounds him, and even his hair has turned silvery white. He doesn't seem like a demon child anymore, but a prodigy, a god among gods. Jin's voice still came clearly from the other end of the den mushy. Silvery white halo, silver white hair. What tricks is that devilish Lin up to now? Kizaru Borsellino pushed up his sunglasses, his habitual lewd smile fading considerably, and his tone unusually serious. Oh my gosh, Tilda, this is truly incredible information, Tilda. An evasive ability that even Shanks couldn't handle. This demon child Lin can no longer be simply described as a monster. Aokiji Kyuzen crossed his arms, his eyes gleaming. It seems that our previous assessment of him was too low. It's more than just low. The Warring States period was so somber that it seemed like water could drip from his face. A little rascal, just over a year old. First, he instantly killed 2 general candidates and severely injured one. Now, he is effortlessly surviving the fierce attacks of the 4 emperors, Shanks. What the hell is this monster? Immediately. Upgrade all information regarding the demon child Lin to the highest level. Zhang Guo took a deep breath, his tone leaving no room for doubt. His level of threat is probably no less than Kaido's. Even more dangerous. Upon hearing this, Garp nodded silently, his eyes filled with complex emotions. This kid. He's growing up way too fast. It's almost here. It's terrifying. I am a general, said Lieutenant General Crane in a deep voice. This matter must be reported to the 5 elders immediately. The existence of this demon child, Lin, is enough to shake the very foundations of the world. The world is probably really about to change. On the battlefield, Shanks' offensive is getting faster and more intense. Griffin transformed into a deadly, cold light, each swing carrying a terrifying power capable of tearing everything apart. Black, dominant-colored lightning raged wildly around him, churning the surrounding seawater into chaos. However, Lin remained as calm and collected as ever. His body, as if boneless, twisted and bent in all sorts of unbelievable ways. Shanks' blade narrowly grazed his body each time. The strong wind it generated made the stray hairs on his forehead fly wildly. But I just can't touch it. I couldn't touch it at all. I can't hit it. Why can't I hit it? What should we do now? Is even the red-haired boss going to lose? Is this kid even human? The crew members of the red-haired pirates were all clutching their hair, their expressions broken, as if they had lost their parents. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates weren't in much better shape. Their complexions were also extremely pale. Even the redheads. In the white-bearded man's hawk-like eyes, besides astonishment, there was also an unyielding solemnity. As a strong person, while others are fighting, he also considers how he would react and what his chances of winning would be if he were fighting the enemy himself. Based solely on what Whitebeard has observed so far. Facing the demon child Lin. His conclusion was, the odds of winning were unclear. Kaido's enormous dragon head also fell silent at this moment. His lantern-like dragon eyes stared intently at Lin. From initial worry to later astonishment and now ecstasy. An indescribable ecstasy. His son. His precious son. How could someone fight Shanks to this extent? Do not. This has escalated to an extreme level. This guy is fucking toying with the redhead. Red-haired brat. Are you fucking any good? They can't even touch a hair on my son's head. A yonko, my foot. That's hilarious. Kaido's taunts were like sharp swords, piercing the red-haired pirates. This made them grit their teeth in anger. But there was nothing they could do. Ida. At this moment, Lin's small brows furrowed slightly. The ultimate skill is indeed useful. But the Conqueror's Haki is being used up way too fast. The Eight Gates formation, in its Death Gate state, just now almost exhausted his strength. Now, this Ultra Instinct technique is burning his Conqueror's Haki wildly again. Although he has a considerable amount of Conqueror's Haki stored up at this rate, he can only hold on for a few more minutes at most before he collapses. It seems my current strength is still far from that of a true Yonko. We can't afford to be so reckless anymore. If they continue to act recklessly and their Conqueror's Haki runs out and their stamina hasn't recovered much, they might get severely injured by that old bastard Shanks' sword, which would be a huge loss. With this in mind, Lin made a decision. Let's give Shanks some face and just admit defeat. After all, he's a user of the face fruit. Anyway, the mission is complete, and he's got Ultra Instinct. It's worth it. Just as Lin was about to admit defeat. Call. Shanks, the red-haired man, suddenly leaped backward, widening the distance between himself and Lin. The griffin in his hand also drooped down. He was breathing heavily, his forehead covered in sweat, and he looked at Lin with a complicated expression. I'm not playing anymore. Shanks suddenly spoke. Hey. Lin was taken aback. What's going on? This red-haired uncle doesn't play by the rules. I've already prepared my lines to admit defeat. Captain. Boss. The members of the red-haired pirates were also completely bewildered. Ben Beckman raised an eyebrow, as if he understood something. Because I couldn't take you down right away, I've been reduced to fighting a little brat like you, relying on physical strength and attrition. To win through such means. Shanks chuckled self-deprecatingly and shook his head. This kind of victory is better left undone. I've lost this match. Chapter 57. The Five Elders are shaken. The bounty on the demon child Lin has been raised to 5 billy. Worsh. These words caused an uproar in the room. Everyone stood there dumbfounded, as if struck by lightning. Red-haired Shanks. Actually, they voluntarily admitted defeat. Lost to a toddler who's just over a year old. What the hell is this magical plot? Ooh ho ho ho. You little red-haired brat. You said it yourself. Kaido's enormous dragon head suddenly lunged forward, its eyes filled with disbelief. The white beard is not surprising at all. Let alone red hair. Even if it's him. Not only would it be impossible to defeat such a tiny kid, even if we tried our best, but we would also have to rely on decades of endurance and stamina to wear him down. And even if we won, it wouldn't be honorable. Boss, we can't give up. We haven't lost yet. The crew members of the red-haired pirates immediately became anxious and began to try to persuade him. Shanks waved his hand, stopping them. He looked at Lin with a mixture of admiration, helplessness, and expectation in his eyes. Kid, you're really strong. It's much stronger than I imagined. Next time we meet, I won't hold back. Upon hearing this, Lin pouted. Iya, I don't want you to give way. He spoke in a childish voice. A draw. Next time, I'll defeat you head-on. Although the voice was young, the undeniable domineering aura made everyone present tremble. Shanks was taken aback for a moment upon hearing this, then burst into laughter. Good. That's ambitious. I'm waiting. After saying that, he turned to look at Kaido. Kaido, you've achieved your goal, haven't you? Take your son and get out of here. Your son has the skills to dodge like that. I don't believe you do. This is my final warning. Upon hearing this, Kaido was not angry at all. Instead, he triumphantly roared to the sky. You stubborn, red-haired brat. No matter how much you argue, you've already lost. My son is the strongest. His huge dragon head rubbed against Lin's little face, spraying saliva everywhere. Let's go, son. Let's go home and have a drink. I need to get a good look at you. What were those moves you just made? They were fucking awesome. Lin rolled her eyes, feeling her eyelids getting heavier and heavier. The feeling of exhausting one's Conqueror's Haki is even more unpleasant than exhausting one's physical strength. He could no longer hold on, his vision went black, and he fell into a deep sleep. Oh. Upon seeing this, Kaido was slightly taken aback, and then carefully used his dragon claws to support Lin's small body. Kaido grinned as he looked at Lin's exquisitely beautiful, yet tired sleeping face. Sleep well, my good son. Our grand war, father and son, is coming soon. Kaido, carrying Lin, flew triumphantly toward the beast's pirate's ship. The members of the red-haired pirates were furious at Kaido's arrogant back, but they were helpless. That's because their captain admitted defeat. Shanks watched the direction Kaido had left, his smile gradually fading and his eyes becoming deep and thoughtful. He turned to look at the white-bearded man. Whitebeard, what have you thought about what I said? The white-bearded man was silent for a moment before slowly speaking. Ace, I'll send someone to bring him back. Shanks nodded upon hearing this. That's good. Goodbye. After saying that, he led the red-haired pirates and set sail. On the Moby Dick. Whitebeard watched the red-haired pirate's ship disappear into the distance, his eyes filled with complex emotions. For a long time. He then spoke in a deep voice. Marco. Dad. Send someone to recall Ace. We're about to face some tough battles. Yes, Dad. Mary G. Wise, between powers. 5 elderly men dressed in black suits, representing the highest authority in the world government, were sitting around a huge round table. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. You all heard Sengoku's report just now, right? According to the urgent report just received from the Marine headquarters, this kid fought Marco of the Whitebeard Pirates, Yasop and Beckman of the Red-Haired Pirates, and finally Shanks. And ultimately, the battle ended with Shanks voluntarily conceding defeat. Not only that, during the battle, he destroyed the warship carrying Vice Admiral Momousagi and Chatten of the Marine headquarters with a single blow, causing Chatten to be seriously injured and fall into a coma. Every word he uttered made the other 4 elders present look increasingly grim. Lin the demon child. Kaido's son. The 5 elders, with a moustache and a scar on his forehead, spoke in a hoarse voice, his fingers lightly tapping the table. Red-haired. He actually gave up. The 5 elders, wearing glasses and tall and thin, spoke with disbelief in their voices. That redhead, though young, is undeniably strong, and he's also Garin's son. I never expected even he. The key point is that, according to Jin's description, that brat ultimately displayed an unbelievable ability to dodge attacks. Shanks' attacks couldn't touch him at all. The bald 5 elders, wielding the first-generation kaitsu, had eyes as sharp as knives. Silver-white hair, silver-white aura. What kind of devil fruit ability is this? I don't know. The 5 old stars with the 8-character moustache shook their heads. It's not just this one. The message also mentioned that this brat previously used something like crimson steam, blue skulls, and purple fingertip cannons. Even we have never heard of any of these abilities. Absolutely bizarre. Who are the 5 elders? Each of them is at least 100 years old. The amazing things I've seen and the bizarre events I've heard about are countless. However, even after racking their brains, they still couldn't determine which devil fruit Lin's various abilities belonged to. Even niche techniques that are not well known in the community. But they had never even heard of it. Isn't this a bit too niche? Kaido's bloodline, coupled with all sorts of unknown and bizarre methods, and that terrifying rate of growth in strength. This brat has become an even more unstable factor than Kaido himself. Silence. A long silence. The air in the room was so heavy it was suffocating. We can't let this continue any longer. Finally, the 5 elders, who had been resting with his eyes closed, with a long white beard and wearing a flat cap, slowly opened his eyes. His voice was old and dignified. This troublemaker Lin must be nipped in the bud. His existence is the greatest provocation to the world government's rule. It is a blatant trampling on the dignity of the celestial dragons. Upon hearing this, the other 4 members of the 5 elders all tensed up. I agree. The bald 5 elders were resolute. The bounty has jumped from 3 billion to 5 billion berries in one fell swoop. Chapter 58, Doflamingo and the Golden Emperor are stunned. Is this demon child Lin even human? 50 billion. Even the other 5 elders frowned upon hearing this number, their voices revealing surprise. This is a bounty on par with the 4 emperors. A toddler who's just over a year old has a $5 billion bounty on his head. He's worth the price. The bald 5 elders snorted coldly. To be able to force back Shanks and severely injure 2 lieutenant generals, this achievement is more than worthy of this bounty. More importantly, we must show the whole world that our world government will not allow this threat to continue. The man with the 8-character moustache, Wu Leoxing, pondered for a moment and then nodded. Okay. 50 billion. 50 billion it is. At the same time, passed down the order. Marine Headquarters, CP, and all forces will now focus on the Beast's pirates. Primary target, Lin the Demon Child. At all costs, we must capture them or eliminate them. An aura of chilling oppression emanated from the realm of power, spreading throughout the entire holy land of Mary G. Wise. The world will be thrown into chaos because of a brat named Lin. A new world, a certain sea area. A colossal ship, lavishly decorated and entirely golden, is slowly sailing. On the deck, by the pool, Don Quixote Doflamingo crossed his legs, sporting his signature wicked smile, and swirled the red wine in his glass. Opposite him was Guild Tesalo, the Golden Emperor. Tesalo leaned back in his chaise lounge, a cigar between his fingers, his expression haughty. Dover, I am very satisfied with this arms deal. Remember to let me know as soon as you have any good deals next time. Doflamingo took a sip of red wine, a confident smile curving his lips. Of course, Tesoro, you can rest assured about my channels. Of course I trust your channels, but what about that demon child Lin from the Beast sect? Are you planning to just swallow your anger? Tesoro abruptly changed the subject, a glint of malice flashing in his eyes. We suffered such a huge loss last time, this debt can't be left unpaid. When Lin was mentioned, Doflamingo's smile faded, and a deep-seated hatred flashed in his eyes. Last time in Dressrosa, the brat kicked me in front of the whole world, and stole my devil fruit worth billions. This is the greatest humiliation of Don Quixote Doflamingo's life. Phew, fo fo. How could I possibly forget that? Doflamingo put on a smile again, but it was a cold and chilling smile. But revenge cannot be rushed. Without sufficient strength, all your ideas are just empty talk. Whether it's empty talk or not, once this guy falls into my hands, I will cast him into a statue of gold, so he can kneel forever at the gates of my golden city. Tesalo was spouting nonsense. Just then, Bulu, Bulu, Bulu. Bulu, Bulu, Bulu. Doflamingo pulled a den mushy from his pocket, glanced at it, and saw it was Virgo's private line. He didn't answer the phone immediately, but got up to leave. Feed Dover. We're such close allies. Is this how you treat your allies? The Golden Emperor, Tesoro's tone clearly showed dissatisfaction. Doflamingo hesitated for a few seconds. In the end, I chose to sit down again. And the call was connected to a den mushy. Virgo, any new information? On the other end of the den mushy, Virgo's urgent and clearly horrified voice immediately came through. Young master, something terrible has happened. Doflamingo raised an eyebrow. Oh, if something's making you this flustered, it must be something serious. It's about that devilish Lin. That brat, he. What happened to him? Did he get captured by the Navy? Doflamingo directly expressed his deepest desire. Tesoro also showed an interested expression. No. Virgo took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself down. That brat Lin. He single-handedly took on the remnants of the red-haired pirates and the white-beard pirates. What? The smiles on Doflamingo and Tesoro's faces froze instantly. What did you say? Virgo. Are you kidding me? Doflamingo's voice suddenly rose in pitch. Absolutely true, young master. Virgo's voice was heavy. Just recently, Kaido took Lin the demon child to the formal meeting between the red-haired pirates and the white-beard pirates. And then that brat Lin got into a fight with two members of the Four Emperors' crews. And the result? Doflamingo and Tesoro asked in unison, their hearts pounding in their throats. The result was Marco, the white-bearded second-in-command, Beckman, the red-haired second-in-command, and Yasop, the sniper, all surrendered. Even Shanks has conceded defeat. Puff! Doflamingo spat out a mouthful of red wine. His signature flamingo sunglasses almost slipped off his nose. Tesalo abruptly sat up from the recliner, his cigar falling to the ground and burning the expensive carpet, but he was completely unaware. No, impossible. Doflamingo screamed, his face contorted in agony. Red-haired Shanks. That Yonko Shanks. He'll lose to a toddler who's barely a year old. Virgo. Have you been drinking? Young master. It's absolutely true. Virgo said urgently, not only that. Before fighting Shanks, the brat also sank Vice Admiral Momousagi and Chatten's warship with just one move. Just one move. Chatten was seriously injured and fell unconscious on the spot. Doflamingo and Tesoro were completely petrified. My mind went completely blank. All that remained in their minds was the echo of Virgo's terrified voice. One move sinks a warship, seriously wounds a candidate for admiral. He challenged Shanks, one of the Four Emperors, to a duel and forced him to admit defeat. Is this guy even human? And Virgo's voice continued. The world government has just released a new bounty for Lin the imp. The bounty. 5 billion berries. Boom. Eh, eh, eh. Doflamingo and Tesoro felt as if something had exploded in their heads. 5 billion. A bounty on par with Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, Whitebeard. That little brat who beat them so badly they had to run away and stole their treasure. Now he's a notorious pirate with a bounty of 5 billion. Doflamingo opened his mouth as if to say something, but found his throat extremely dry and unable to utter a single word. The muscles in his face twitched uncontrollably. Tesoro trembled all over, his eyes filled with boundless fear and despair. Revenge. What's the point of seeking revenge? How are they going to get revenge on a monster with a 5 billion bounty? They could crush them with a single finger. Chapter 59. The world was in an uproar, and the 7 warlords were completely dumbfounded. At this moment, the whole world was in an uproar because of a newspaper. Morgan's bird-like face was beaming with unprecedented excitement. His World Economic News, with an unprecedented expedited edition, front page, and extra-large font, announced a message to the world that was enough to overturn all perceptions. Breaking news. Breaking news. World shaking. The 3 sovereigns meet, dramatically changing the world order. Kaido's son, Lin, single-handedly fights the red-haired pirates and the white-beard pirates. The 4 emperors, red-haired Shanks, actually admitted defeat. The huge title, coupled with a few blurry but still clear photos of the fierce battle, instantly ignited an uproar in every sea area. What? Are you kidding me? It's that brat Lin again. He single-handedly took on 2 major royal teams. You can't be kidding me. Red-haired Shanks surrendered. Is this some kind of fairy tale? Countless people rubbed their eyes, unable to believe what they were seeing. In teahouses, taverns, on pirate ships, inside naval bases. Exclamations, doubts, and gasps of surprise rose and fell in waves. It felt as if the whole world had been hit by a depth charge. But when they saw another, more eye-catching news item in the newspaper, everyone's brains completely shut down. World government's latest bounty. Lin the Demon Child, bounty amount, 5 billion berries. 5 billion. 5 billion. This number, as if possessing magic, violently impacts everyone's senses. 5 billion. A tavern owner dropped his wine glass with a loud crash, shattering it into pieces. I'm not seeing things, am I? A bounty on par with the 4 emperors. That brat in open crotch pants. 50 billion. The whole world fell silent. After a brief silence came an even more terrifying clamor. This is insane. This world has gone completely insane. This demon child Lin. Just what kind of monster is he? One family with 2 Yonker. Who can stop the beast's pirates? It's over. It's all over. On a sinister and eerie island in the Grand Line, there lies Gecko Moria's terrifying 3-masted ship. 5 billion berries. Red-haired Shanks has given up. Moriah's eyes widened in surprise, and the scissors in his hand fell to the ground with a clatter. Are you kidding me? Moria slumped onto his throne, drenched in cold sweat. Where on earth did Kaido pick up such a monster? He also dreamed of one day making a comeback and challenging Kaido again. Now it seems. That's utterly delusional. I'm afraid I can no longer hold on to this position as one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Even being a Shichibukai made Moria feel incredibly dangerous. Daughter Island, Amazon Lily. Having just finished her rigorous training, Empress Boa Hancock strolled back to her palace. Upon arrival, they saw Grandma Zar, who was holding a newspaper on her head and staring in disbelief, along with her sisters and bodyguards. Everyone's face was filled with shock and awe. Has something happened at sea again? However, there's no need to panic, no matter how big the situation. My strength is improving very rapidly now, and I'm capable of fighting even a general. Her diligent training during this period greatly improved her strength, giving her the confidence to stand out from the crowd once again. Hancock, you look at this. Hancock took the newspaper. Just one glance. Her expression changed drastically, and her pupils dilated. What? Lin the demon child, a bounty of 5 billion. Hancock was utterly shocked. It wasn't long ago that his bounty was 30 billion. And it's already 50 billion. But then I looked at the results. He faced off against the two emperors alone. He won over many core members of the red-haired pirates and the white-beard pirates. Even Shanks, the red-haired, voluntarily admitted defeat. Redhead admits defeat. Hancock was dumbfounded. If she could catch up with this brat before, through cultivation, how can she possibly catch up now with this incredible record? Clegana Island, a damp and cold ancient castle. Hawkeye Mihawk put down the newspaper he was holding. His sharp, eagle-like eyes remained calm and still. However, the veins on the right hand holding Yi's hand were slightly bulging. He stood up and walked towards the door. He's going to ask the redhead. What exactly happened? Just how strong is that brat? That he was able to make the man, he acknowledged, admit defeat. A secret base somewhere. Bartholomew Kuma, a Revolutionary Army cadre, sat in the corner, his enormous figure visible. The officials were shouting and yelling. Exclamations of surprise rang out. Don't panic. The appearance of Lin, the demon child, may not necessarily be a bad thing for our Revolutionary Army. Dragon also held a newspaper in his hand, his eyes gleaming. His current brilliance has surpassed all the 4 emperors, as well as us. The world government's focus will inevitably turn to demon child Lin. This is a great opportunity for us to continue to grow. Upon hearing this, the cadre's eyes lit up. Yes. In this way, they will have the opportunity to liberate more countries. A new world on a deserted island. The entire Blackbeard pirates were dumbfounded. Ha 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 ha. Captain, this newspaper. It's not printed wrong, is it? Doc Q pushed up his glasses, his voice sounding slightly unsteady. 50 billion. Red-haired guy admits defeat. Van Oka wiped the sweat from his forehead, his grip on the 1006 sword becoming increasingly unsteady. Champion Zeus's Barses opened his mouth wide, unable to close it for a long time. How the hell are we supposed to catch up now? I was still thinking about getting revenge on him. This little brat has suddenly risen to the top. Even Blackbeard Teach's face was filled with shock and bewilderment. One person against the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates. And they even severely damaged the executives of the twin Emperors group. Redhead admits defeat. Blackbeard felt that he recognized each word individually, but when put together, it was utterly absurd. No one understands the true value of the twin Emperors group better than him. No one understands Shank's terrifying strength better than him. Even if he got the dark fruit, he still had to avoid the Whitebeard pirates. This brat not only publicly challenged them, but also won. To escape unscathed. Are you kidding me? Just then. Teach, it looks like something terrible has happened to you. A lazy voice, tinged with amusement, drifted over. Teach raised an eyebrow and looked at the person who had just arrived. The other carders also quickly became alert. Captain Ace, how did you find your way here? Did you come here specifically to see me? Ace's eyes gradually turned cold. What do you think, Teach? Ace said coldly, murdering your comrades, stealing the fruit. Do you think you can be forgiven? Upon hearing this, Teach did not get angry but laughed instead. Zehaha. Captain Ace, you're wrong about that. What defines a traitor? A good bird chooses its tree, and a wise minister chooses his lord. Isn't that normal? He pointed at Ace, then at the sky. Look at the world now. Lin the demon child. A little kid who's just over a year old, with a bounty of 5 billion. Even Shanks fell for him. What does this mean? It means times have changed, Ace. The Whitebeard pirates. They're so outdated. Whitebeard himself is too old. They can't even control the rise of a little kid. What future do they have? Teach's voice was seductive. Join me, Ace. With your strength and my dark fruit, if we join forces, we'll definitely create a brand new era. At that time, all those demon child Lin and the 4 emperors will become our stepping stones. Upon hearing this, Ace was so angry that he laughed instead. Shut up, Teach. You despicable and shameless scoundrel. How dare you mention my name? You dare mention Lin. I will never stoop to your level. Prepare to die, Teach. Fire fist. A giant flaming fist slammed down towards Teach. Ha ha ha. You've come at the perfect time. My plan can now be executed even more perfectly. A sinister glint flashed in Teach's eyes. Dark water. A dense darkness surged from Teach's hand, meeting Ace's flames head-on. Boom! On the island of Panero, a fateful showdown is about to unfold. The other side. Ghost Island. Lin, who had been in a coma for several days, slowly woke up. His eyelids felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. He struggled to open them, and what came into view was a huge dragon face that stretched to its ears. Kaido's signature maniacal laughter exploded in Lin's ears like thunder. Lin, you're finally awake. Come and see your bounty poster, 5 billion. A whole 5 billion higher than mine. Chapter 60, New System Tasks, each one more insane than the last. 50 billion. Lin was a little confused. A freshly printed bounty poster was shoved right in Lin's face. The bounty poster showed him opening the 8 gates, surrounded by blood energy, looking like a demon god. Incredibly domineering. The string of zeros below was so dazzling it made one's eyes dizzy. 5 billion peels. Oh ho 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 ho. 50 billion. My son, 50 billion, Kaido laughed, spitting as his huge dragon head swung excitedly back and forth. Lord Lin is awesome. 50 billion. He's only a little over a year old and already has 50 billion. Surpassing Roger is just a matter of time. Roger. That's nothing. What 4 emperors, what world government, they're all bullshit. The Beast's pirates are the best in the world. Jae-hin, Quinn, and Jack, the 3 main figures, along with countless gifters around them, were all blushing and shouting, their eyes filled with fanaticism and worship as they looked at Lin. The entire Ghost Island went into a frenzy because of this bounty. This world government is probably really targeting me. Lin blinked, still a little confused. Just then, that cold yet familiar notification sound rang in my mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have successfully observed and participated in the friendly meeting between the four emperors red-haired Shanks and Kaido of the Beasts Pirates. Mission: witness the rise of the two emperors. 1-1. Completed. Congratulations, host. You have received the mission reward, a massive amount of stamina. A warm current instantly flowed through my entire body. The extreme fatigue from continuously opening the death gate, using knight armor, and finally unleashing the devastating special beam cannon that drained everything melted away as quickly as snow scattered by sunlight. Every cell is now full of vitality again. Lin felt like he could take on 10. No, 2 Beckmans in one go. Congratulations, host. You have received the mission reward. Susanoo Beginner has been upgraded to Susanoo Intermediate. Susanoo Intermediate. The solidity of the skeleton and meridians is greatly improved, and the defensive power of the energy armor is greatly increased. The controllability of body shape is enhanced, and energy consumption is slightly reduced. With a thought, an even more profound and solid feeling came from the depths of his soul. The defensive power of the intermediate Susanoo is probably more than 1 level stronger than before. I no longer have to worry about getting cracked by Beckman's shots. Kaido was still there, spitting as he boasted about his son's great achievements. The crew of the red-haired pirates were described as utterly incompetent, and Shanks was even portrayed as someone who would readily bow down in worship. Lin silently rolled her eyes. However, before he could fully enjoy the comfort of his restored stamina and the joy of Susanoo's upgrade, the system's voice rang out again. Ding! Detected a qualitative leap in host strength, resulting in an unprecedented surge in global influence. A brand new series of epic challenge missions have now been unlocked. Lin's heart skipped a beat. Here it comes, this familiar taste. After each upgrade, the dog system never lets him have a moment's peace. Series Challenge Mission 1, the Royal Level Touchstone. Mission requirements. In a one-on-one duel, defeat a Marine Admiral or higher-ranking officer, 0-1. Mission reward, massive stamina. Susanoo Intermediate will be directly upgraded to Susanoo Advanced. Lin. A one-on-one duel. To defeat a general or higher-ranking figure head-on. Aren't those the 4 emperors and Akinu? Kizaru. Aokiji. Those ruthless guys. This difficulty level is off the charts. This isn't a confrontation, it's a friendly exchange. It's about defeating. To beat ruthless people like Akinu and Kizaru until they are completely powerless and pass out. Even Kaido might not be able to do it. The difficulty can be imagined. However, he can now even hold his own against redheads. Defeating a general is not necessarily impossible. What's more, a high-level Susanoo. Its defensive power is enough to make your mouth water just thinking about it. His little fists clenched unconsciously. It's done. Series Challenge Mission 2, a 7-day trip to hell. Mission requirements. Successfully capture the host by the Navy and ensure their safe imprisonment in the 6th level of Impel Down, the underwater prison. Afterwards, the host must safely survive at least 7 natural days, 7 days, within infinite hell. Mission reward, massive Conqueror's Haki reserve. Special beam cannon skill cost, stamina and Haki, permanently reduced by 50%. Puff! Lin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What the heck? He deliberately got arrested. We have to go to the 6th level of Impel Down. Stay for a full 7 days. Are you out of your mind, you dog system? What is that infinite hell? It's where legendary pirates are imprisoned. A living hell. 7 more days. For 7 days, he had to stay on the 6th floor and not move. This meant that the 3 admirals of the Navy, Garp, Sengoku, and even the 5 elders could surround him without any worries and bombard him relentlessly. After all, he is now worth a full 50 billion. Neither the world government nor the Navy can afford to let themselves live. This is how it happened. Will I still be able to save my life? Lin's face fell instantly. Although the reward